All right, let's get started. I think we're good to get started here. So welcome everybody. Welcome on in. Hopefully you're here for Math V01 beginning algebra. Okay. And for some reason, Zoom changed their settings, and it's forcing me to use a wait room, which means I have to keep letting people in it one at a time. I'll see if I can. They change their settings every semester, and so it's almost like you have to relearn the whole thing to get it the way you want it again. So hopefully I can get that under control. Today we're largely just going to be introducing the class, how things are going to work, so that you know the expectations that are ahead of you and what you need to do so that you can be successful in the course. Okay. With that said, there's two ways to consume these meetings that we're having right now. I don't care which one you use. If you want to be in Zoom, be in Zoom. If you want to be on the YouTube stream, be on the YouTube stream. The only thing is the visuals that are going to be appearing behind me will appear on the YouTube stream. They won't end up in Zoom. I can't stream the backgrounds to both things. So I do it to the YouTube channel because that's the one that's going to get recorded and saved so that if you miss a class, you can just watch it later. Now, I highly recommend that you actually attend the classes because then you can ask questions and actually be a part of stuff. It's not the same as watching it later, but if you have to miss watching it later, you can at least do that. Some people like to have both open. Basically, what some people do is they listen to me in Zoom and then they watch me on YouTube. You can do it however you want. Just use Zoom, just use YouTube, just do both, however you want to do it. The only thing is the audio's off by a small amount. So if you have the audio set on both, you're going to hear like a weird echo and it gets confusing. So if you're going to watch both, turn the audio off on one of them. But watch it however you want. Okay, it doesn't really matter. Feel free to use the chat for class appropriate stuff. If you have a question or a comment, you can throw it up there. And then when I think it's an appropriate time to address that question, I can address it. Or I can say, oh, I'm going to get to that in a little bit or something like that. So, as long as you're keeping it class appropriate, the chats in both Zoom and YouTube are available to you. So feel free to use those. That's perfectly fine. Okay. But today we'll be going over some stuff. So just to make clear, because sometimes students get confused about this, if you're only watching in Zoom, you're not going to see the stuff that I'm showing you. You're not going to see the visuals. For that, you want to be on the YouTube stream. Some people find it a little easier to ask questions in the Zoom meeting because there's not that delay you get on YouTube with a YouTube live stream. But then the visuals aren't being fed into Zoom, and then they're not being, when it's on YouTube, I can easily just archive it so you can watch it later. A little harder to do on Zoom. So it's up to you how you want to do it. Some people like Zoom, some people like YouTube, however you want to do it. Okay. But just be aware, you'll miss some of the visuals that I'm trying to show you if you're in the Zoom. But if you're comfortable with that, then you consume it whichever way you prefer, whatever works for you. Okay. So welcome. Here we are. Math V01 beginning algebra. And we'll be going over this course for the next 18 weeks, right? My understanding is there's many El Camino students in here, which is great. I've had lots of El Camino students in the past. Generally goes well. Actually, when we first moved here, my son went to El Camino for 1 year. He did his senior year there since we moved from another state. So it's good. It's a good experience. So that will help a little bit. I don't know. I'm not sure what the status is of that school. If are they on ground? Are people showing up there to the school to take their classes? I would guess so, but maybe you guys start next week or something. I'm not sure. I'm not sure on the dates there, but it will be conveniently located in case you ever want to come to my office. So looks like you all were able to find the class meetings where you were able to click either the Confer Zoom or the YouTube stream. When I do have office hours, the online office hours, it will be same Zoom link that you used this morning. That's how you will come to my online office hours. Now, I'll get to the weird part of this semester in that I have non-online office hours this semester, which seems weird. It wasn't my choice. It's a administrative decision. I was just told that's what I have to do. But we'll go over office hours and stuff in a little bit. So I'm going to go over some major, kind of the big stuff you need to know today. We'll see if we get finished with it or not, and then we can talk about it next time. Again, if anybody has questions, feel free to ask me. Oh, and I will just say, in general, when you come into Zoom, the default should be that you're muted. And then if you need to talk to me or something, or you need to ask a question in class, feel free to unmute yourself. But in general, it's just etiquette, Zoom etiquette. We do this in our own meetings. When it's a meeting full of professors, we do the same thing where we mute ourselves unless we're going to talk. Because otherwise what happens is someone's dog walks in the room and starts barking. Your roommates are opening and closing doors, doing dishes. You got kids running around making noise. It just gets really distracting. So generally, we're going to leave ourselves muted unless we're speaking. And then by all means, like, unmute yourself so we can hear what you have to say. And then mute yourself again once you're done. Or if you prefer, feel free to throw messages into chat, right? Again, as long as they're appropriate, then we certainly can address those questions. And it's kind of nice because then it means I can kind of wait till the right time to answer that question, and then I can give that information as well. But, feel free to, if you need to speak up, there's the hand raise icon in Zoom, and you can raise that hand, and then we can have a question or throw it in chat, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever works. So, okay, first thing we want to get a hold on is homework. So you can see, just so everyone knows, I'm in the main Canvas page, which I assume you found if you were able to get here, that you got to this. So you probably found class meetings. So homework, and I see that some of you as of yesterday, I didn't check this morning because I didn't have a chance. I was teaching my other class this morning, but I saw that some of you had already signed up for the class. That's great. If we could get everyone signed up for the class, that would be awesome. The good news is it doesn't cost you anything, right? Those of you who have taken college classes are learning that college classes also mean extensive books and online homework platforms. You don't have to worry about that. This Delta Math that we're going to be using, basically I pay a fee. I pay a fee in October, and then all my students get to use the program for a year. So that means you don't have to pay anything, which is great because a lot of these things are about $100 a piece for the online homeworks for math. You might have to do that in the future where you pay $100 to use the software for a semester. The semester doesn't cost you anything. You just have to sign up and just follow the directions right here. Excuse me. I need to get a water. I've got the hiccups. Oh, there's a question. Are we going to use the same Zoom link all semester? Yep. I always use that same one. So just be careful that you don't accidentally, if you pop into Zoom while I'm having a different class, then just, you probably want to leave and then come back at another time. But when I have online office hours and stuff like that, it's going to be the same Zoom link. That's right. Okay. I'll be right back. I'm getting the hiccups. I need to get some water. I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that. I've been talking for a couple hours straight this morning, getting a little dry. Okay, so where was I? Yep, so some students were successfully entering into the course. So hopefully what would really be great is by the next time I see you, every student that's enrolled in the course has set up their account, which is really easy to do. It's like, not only is it free, it's way easier than like my Math Lab and WebAssign and these other programs you may use down the road. It's way easier to get set up in there and go. So you'll just watch that and you'll make sure that you're doing the homework assignments by the due dates. And then, that's a major portion of the class is getting those homework assignments completed on time. I am setting up the homework assignments where you can work on them after the due date, but there's a penalty. It's a 50% penalty So you don't have to ask for extensions. Just if you don't get it done in time, the stuff that you do after the due date, there'll be a penalty for. So that's going to hurt your score. So make sure that you're trying to get it done on time, but it doesn't kill you if if you don't get it completed on time. But you don't want to do that very much, because 50% is a failing grade. You don't want your homework grade to be 50%. You want to try to get those homework assignments completed on time so that you're getting 100%, so you're getting them completed, right? So please try to get this done by the next time I see you. The reason being, first of all, you don't want to fall behind in the class, but also if there is any kind of question or confusion, you can ask me on Thursday, and then I can help you get that done before the weekend. Otherwise, you're going to be waiting until Tuesday to get help again. You see how then you'll really be behind in the class. So try to make sure by the next time I see you that you've got this up, you've attempted some homework, you kind of know how the system works, and then you can progress through it, okay? One thing I will say, you want to make sure you're getting homework done. So this will kind of go into discussion we need to have about me dropping people. And I don't really like dropping people, but unfortunately it's kind of part of the job. So what happens at the school, some of you, this may be your first college class you've taken, some of you may have taken some before. The way it works when you take a college course is that you pay tuition, right? You pay a certain amount of money to take that class. But if you sit down and think about it, because I remember thinking about this when I was a student, where you take the amount of tuition paid for the course, multiply that by the number of people in the course, and it's still not very much money. You go, well, this doesn't even really pay for, how does that pay for my professor? It pays for all the employees at the school who have to clean and run everything, and the electricity and the internet and all the stuff the school has to pay for. How could tuition cover that? The answer is it doesn't. Most of the funds to educate you come from the state. So you pay some in the form of tuition. The state pays most of it that they give us. But part of the calculations they make when they pay us money is how many students are in the class on a certain date. That date is called census. I'm contractually obligated before that date. This is one of the things the school takes very seriously in the contract. Before that date, I have to drop people who are not participating in the course, sufficiently participating. Okay, so sometimes students will take a course like this and go, I have 18 weeks to get through it. I'm just going to kind of take it easy the first couple weeks and then I'll get caught up later. Well, then what happens is they haven't done very much work, so I'm obligated to drop them before census. It's literally in the contract. I have to do this. I don't generally look to drop students from classes, but the census date is one where I have to. So what you need to do now, like I've mentioned, going into that Delta Math, getting it set up, and then doing homework. Because then if you have a history that you're doing the homework in this course and you're more or less caught up, I mean, it's one thing if you've done half the work, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it looks like you're not really keeping up in this course. But, if you're one homework assignment behind, I'm not going to drop you. But when census rolls around, if I go in there, one of the things I look at is, has this person been consistently doing homework? And if they have, then I can justify to my dean why I didn't drop you from the course, right? I can say, well, no, this person did 90% of the homework, so of course I'm not going to drop them from the course. Otherwise, I have to, if it looks like someone is not really on pace to do well in the class, I have to drop you because the state doesn't want to pay for students that aren't going to be successful, right? So just be aware. This goes for, any of my math classes. You want to start off strong right out of the gate, completing homework assignments and doing the things you're supposed to do, because in I don't know what it is, somewhere around 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that, I have to sit down and basically judge everyone at that point and decide who gets dropped from the course and who doesn't. And like I say, my preference is to not drop people, but this is literally a process that I have to be able to tell the dean that I went through and did it properly. So if you don't want to get dropped from the course, just do what you're supposed to do. Do the homework, show up to class, all that kind of stuff, and then I won't drop you. If for some reason something happens to you in that last week, like where you generally this is because people end up in the hospital. But if you go, oh, I was in the hospital, I literally can't do the work because I'm too sick. If you send me an email before I drop someone from the course, I usually search that name. So make sure your name is fully in there. Sometimes people might just tell me, like, they might send me and say, oh, this is Bob from Math 3. Well, when I search your name, your actual name, Bob might not pop up, right? So, make sure you tell me your full name and say, I'm in the hospital. I'm going to get caught up as soon as I can next week. Then I won't drop you from the course. But if I go and say, oh, this person hasn't done anything for a week, I'm supposed to drop you from the course, okay? So this isn't to scare anyone. This is just to let you know, because sometimes this backfires on students where they go, oh, well, I was going to start next week. I have to be able to have evidence that you're progressing through the course, or I have to drop you in about 3 weeks. Okay, so hopefully with the homework it should be pretty straightforward. Getting in there, getting it set up, and beginning to progress through the homework assignments as you need to. Okay, that's a pretty important piece because, like I say, I don't really want to drop you, and you probably don't want to be dropped, so let's make sure that doesn't happen. Okay, next thing is the syllabus. So a lot of today we'll be talking about the syllabus. I'll walk you through it. I highly encourage you, if you're going to send me a message asking me a question, just the first question you should ask yourself is this in the syllabus? Because if the answer is yes, I'll probably just have you look it up in the syllabus, right? So if you're going to ask me, how much are exams worth? It's in the syllabus. When are your office hours? It's in the syllabus. What's your office number? It's in this. Like, all those questions you should answer by looking in the syllabus, right? Because with online courses, I spend a lot of time interacting and responding to emails. And if I'm getting emails about what's your office number, then that's slowing me down from helping people that have the more legitimate emails, right? Like emailing me to ask me my office number, well, you should just look up my office number. But if you're stuck on factoring difference of squares, that's a totally legitimate question. I keep trying difference of squares and I don't get it. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong. Here's my question. Here's what I tried to do. Why is it wrong? Then I can answer that question, right? That's a totally legitimate email. So just kind of ask yourself, can I find it in the syllabus? And if so, just read the syllabus. Okay, it makes it better. It makes the whole class better because then I can respond faster to the sort of the better questions. Now, how should you get a hold of? By the way, I'm getting ahead of myself. So I'm Dr. Frederick. This is my 8th year at Ventura College, I believe, and I was in Washington State full-time for 4 years before that, so 12 years of full-time teaching. I've taught this course a ton of times. I've taught it a few times online in the last year and a half. I've taught it, I don't know how many times in the last 12 years that I've taught this elementary algebra course or beginning algebra. Pretty much, I think I have it pretty dialed in as far as what we should be doing. My office is the Science Building 237. Now, for most of you, if you're El Camino students, you are pretty close to that office. So the weird thing about my office hours might kind of work out for you, although I don't know how El Camino is running their stuff this semester. So we'll get to that in a minute. But the Science Building is that one right by the East Lot. What we call the East Lot is that one where El Camino is. El Camino exists on the edge of the East Lot, with all the there's a bunch of solar stuff up now in that parking lot. It's where they have the marketplace on the weekends. That's the East Lot, right where El Camino is. My office is right on the edge of the East Lot as well, over in the Science Building. So the closest part of that Science Building to the parking lot is a bunch of math offices, and I'm one of those. So, it's 15 feet, 20 feet from the parking lot. So easy to find. Easy walk if you're an El Camino student over from the El Camino campus. Okay? So my email, cfrederick@vccd.edu. There's two main ways to get a hold of me. One is to notify me directly through Canvas. That's the preferred method. You're welcome to email me, but sometimes there's problems with the email. The preferred method is Canvas. Here's why. For one thing, when you message me in Canvas, it tells me what class you're in. So I get a lot of emails from students that say, hey, this is Dave. When's the next homework due? which you shouldn't never really have to ask that, because like it says in the homework when the homework is due. Like if you have an assignment, it says when it's due. So I'm always a little confused when students email me to ask me when it's due. But also if you just say, hey, I'm Dave. Dave who? I don't even know what class you're in. You really didn't give me much information there. If you message me in Canvas, it tells me what class you're in. Right next to your name, it says the class that you're in. So that makes it a lot easier for me to figure out what you're talking about. So that's preferred. The other thing why email is sometimes a problem is people like to change my name to other names that my name is not. People like to just do Frederick with one E. They also like to add stuff onto the end. People want my name to be Fredericks or Fredrickson or something like that. And I have students to say, hey, I've been emailing you for 2 weeks and you've never responded to any of my emails. And we look, and they were sending it to C. Fredrickson. Well, I'm not C. Fredrickson. I'm just Frederick. So it's usually a little bit more foolproof if you try to email me, or not email me, but message me through Canvas. It's usually a little bit smoother. So that's what I would recommend. You're welcome to send me an email. If you send me an email, I'll respond to it, and it's not a problem at all. But I find less problems with people messaging me through Canvas. It just seems like less mistakes get made with the email address, and then I know what class you're in, and I can probably respond to you a little bit quicker. So that would be my recommendation, is to use the Canvas notification to get a hold of me. Textbooks for this class. You do not specifically have to buy a textbook. I do have students every semester who will go online and they find an older edition algebra textbook, and I'm not kidding. I've had students find them for $5 before. Okay, so to me that's a no-brainer. If you can get your hands on an old textbook for $5 to $10, that's going to help you when you have trouble with factoring difference of cubes, and you have trouble with solving quadratic equations and the quadratic formula and completing the square. And it's really nice to have a book that you can just open up and see some examples and then follow along. So you're not required to do that, but I see many students, basically my students who do that, generally have higher grades than the students who don't. So, that's kind of a bit of an indication there. That's not a bad idea. All right. You will have videos and stuff in the homework showing you how to do stuff, and you'll have, to a certain extent, me helping you. But you have to realize this is a 5-unit class. So if we were meeting on ground traditional style, we would meet for 5 hours a week. We are meeting for 2, which means you're getting 40% as much time with me as you're used to, which means there's a lot of stuff I can't cover in class. So having that book, as well as the videos that I have posted, very helpful. Okay? Very helpful. So office hours. So this is the one class where this might not be as, oops, sorry, I'm not even showing the thing correctly. Let me move this. I didn't realize I had a bad view on the syllabus there. So I'm just going through the syllabus. Okay, so the school, this was not my decision. The school has mandated this for all faculty, that 3 of my 5 office hours have to be on ground on campus, which is kind of weird because all of my classes are online and the people who took my classes are taking them online. So that generally means people don't want to come to campus just to have an office hour. But that's what they decided, so that's what we have to do. So Monday from 11 to 2, I am in my office on campus having office hours. So, like I say, you're the one group that might benefit from this because your actual school, El Camino, is like a few hundred yards away. So if you were at school that day and then you wanted to see me, it's a pretty easy walk to come over and get some help in my office hours, which you are welcome to do. And I'm not sure if El Camino is... I don't know. Are you guys showing up to El Camino right now, or is it more of a like you Zoom into your teachers, or I don't know how that works. But anyways, if you are going to come onto campus, you have to go through the screening process on campus. Basically, they'll have you fill out a questionnaire that says, do you feel sick? Do you have a fever? Like all this kind of stuff. You'll say no. I mean, tell the truth. But most of the time you're going to say, no, I don't have any symptoms. I'm fine, blah, blah, blah. Then they'll give you a little wristband, like when you go to a show or whatever, some music being played or something, you get your little wristband. Every day it's a different color wristband to make sure that you're going through the screening every single day. So if you're walking around on campus, you have to have that wristband, but then you can easily walk over to my office and I can help you out with stuff. That's 11 to 2 on Mondays. Sometimes I might get there a few minutes after 11. So if you get there, if it's like 11:05, I'm probably right around the corner if I'm not already there. Most days I should be there by 11, but if I'm a few minutes late, just wait. I'll be there. In addition to that, on Tuesday and Thursday, I have an office hour from 8:50 to 10. Okay. 8:50 to 10. So that's basically right before this class. So don't show up like 5 minutes before class. Don't come in at 9:55 and go, okay, I have some questions I need answered, because at 9:55 I'm probably setting up the Zoom meeting and the YouTube stream and making sure I know what I'm talking about and getting everything ready for class. But if you show up at like 9:45, I probably could answer most questions that you have before I need to start setting the class up. So, if you show up a little bit early, I can probably help you. Also, I generally always will close class by letting you ask me questions as well. So usually what I do when I close class is I shut down the YouTube stream, and then I leave Zoom open as long as people have questions for me. So if you could have the question, I'm really having this problem with this homework problem. I'll help you with that after class. Okay, I'll help you get through that stuff. So you can, you can come to office hours. You can find me before class, because that's actually office hours as well. And you can talk to me after class. Even if it goes past what our class is supposed to go to 10:50, if you're still asking me questions at 11:05, that's fine. I'll help you with that, right? I'd rather make sure that you can progress forward in the material. So, I'm there to help you and answer questions for you. I know this is really hard for students, especially math by far. What we're seeing in our students is the number one class that students are terrified of taking online is a math class. So I know it's stress-inducing, gives people anxiety. It's very challenging. So I will be available if you have questions. Like I say, before and after class and during office hours. And if you can't make those times, get a hold of me and I'll see if I can set up a Zoom meeting with you at a different time so that I can help you out. Okay, it's really important that we want to make sure that you're successful here early on in the course, because early success means the class is going to be less stressful for you, right? It means you're going to go through. Don't procrastinate. Don't wait. As things pile up, that's when it gets really hard and really scary and really stressful. So just try to, consider it like a long walk where, okay, every day I'm going to take a few steps on this walk and I'm going to eventually get to the end of the walk 18 weeks from now. Don't think of it as I'm going to sit around and then I'm going to try to sprint at the end, because that doesn't work. So, yeah. Okay, the final exam. The final exam time and date are supposed to be posted in my syllabus, but the school has not released that information yet. So usually they release it well in advance, even of registration. But this semester, since we've gone with since COVID has happened, they don't release that until about halfway through the semester. Not really sure why, because they've not really changed much, but those are taking a lot longer to get out. So anyways, what I've left is the link. So if you want to know when final exams are, follow that link. And once they have posted the final exam schedule, we will all learn together when the final exam is. But we don't know because they haven't told us yet. So we'll kind of learn all that. Okay, then there's a bunch of stuff we don't necessarily need to read. Student learning outcomes, course objectives. These are just things where if say you try to go to, you're going to college in Ohio. They have no idea who Ventura College is or how we teach Math 1. So you could show them this and they'd say, oh, okay, that's the equivalent of this course. We'll give you credit for it. But if you're going around here, if you're going to Channel Islands, if you're going to Santa Barbara, or you're going somewhere in Southern California, they're probably already going to know what we teach in Math 1. So you don't have to worry about that too much. Oh, ADA statements. If you're someone who, if you don't know what the ADA statement is about, then it probably doesn't relate to you. If you're someone who needs to know about ADA statements, you need to go through the EAC. I'm not allowed to make any accommodations until people work through the EAC. That's the, the Educational Assistance Center on campus. Once you go through them and they diagnose any kind of special needs that you have, then they let me know, and then I follow those directions. But I can't do anything special for people until that's been taken care of. So in the syllabus, there's the phone number for the EAC. They're kind of over by the bookstore for anyone who needs to contact them about that. So they're really helpful. They're really nice. If you think that pertains to you, go talk to them. They'll set you up, and then they'll tell me what I'm supposed to do, okay? But I'm kind of locked in. I can't do things until I have directions from the EAC. I can't do anything differently, okay? Right. Grades are pretty straightforward. 50% is homework, 50% is exams. So it's really important that you do both, because it makes sense. Oh, I can't pass this class without doing the homework. I can't pass this class without getting good exam scores. They're both a necessary part of the course. And I see students do it. I see students try to pass the course with, say, a 30% on homework. Even if you have really good exam scores, a 30% in homework's not going to do it. You're going to end up failing. You're going to end up with a D, right? So, or a D at best. You're probably going to end up with an F. So just make sure you're doing both. They are both homework and exams are considered required parts of the course. It's a popular thing where students convince themselves they can do well on exams without doing the homework. It doesn't happen, right? We just don't see it. A lot of students think they're the one who's going to do it. Students who don't do the homework have very poor test scores. Students who do most or all of the homework have passing test scores or higher. Okay, so it's really one of the keys to doing well, both mathematically to make your score come out high, but then also just to have the knowledge to do well on an exam, you got to do the homework. Okay. And we kind of went over homework earlier, kind of showed you how that worked. So Canvas is the place where you should generally be looking to have the, what's going on next in the course. And I can show you here. Let me see if I go Canvas. So, you've got the introduction that you work through, class meetings, that kind of stuff. And then you see we get into chapter 1. I don't have all of the chapters published yet because I don't want to overwhelm you on day 1. But we will start publishing those, or I will start publishing those later chapters as we go through it. You can see this first one. You've probably done a lot of this math before in the first chapter. Hopefully it's all review for you. It's like exponents, order of operations. It's basic stuff to kind of remind you, how algebra is supposed to work. Once you get through that, then you'll get into chapter 2. Now notice we have a few things here. One, let's just kind of take a look at how this is set up. So here's the chapter 1 material. I click it. Oh, here I have a video talking me about exponents here and order of operations and that kind of stuff. So, excuse me. Remember, most of our class time actually won't be spent like me lecturing, because remember, we only have 2 hours instead of the 5 that we're used to, which means a lot of what I would be showing you in the classroom, I literally don't have time to show you. So that's why it's really important you watch these videos. Some of the videos will be me. Some of the videos will be someone else, right? Professor Leonard, this person, if you can see on screen right now, he's got fantastic videos. If I tried to recreate what he was doing, it would be the same or worse than what he was doing. So why not just use his video? Some of the videos will be me. Some won't. So by all means, if you're confused about something after watching a video, come see me in office hours. Let me help you out with that. Okay. But you'll watch the video and you'll watch a few of these, and then you should go try to do the assignments in the Delta Math. Okay. If you get in there and you go, wait, I don't remember seeing a video on this, go watch another video. Maybe it's a video you haven't watched yet. Right? So you'll kind of work through it. The homeworks don't line up with these sections here perfectly, but they're pretty close. All right. Just because some of them, if I made them line up perfectly, some assignments would be too short and some would be too long. So I've kind of tried to level them out a little bit so that you don't have one night a homework assignment takes you 20 minutes and the next time it takes you 3 hours. I've tried to level it out a bit so it's a little more consistent. You can see here we've got variables, expressions, and equations. This is all really important stuff. There's a tendency sometimes for students to kind of not take this early material seriously because they go, oh yeah, I learned that like in the 4th grade. But then when I start talking about expressions and equations, they don't know the difference, right? So don't treat it like, oh yeah, I've learned this stuff before. You may have learned it before, but you may have already also forgotten it in the meantime. So please go through it. It's going to make a lot more sense if you understand the difference between an expression and an equation, because you're going to hear those terms all semester, and it's an important difference. This actually leads to problems later on. One of the big problems that people mix up in this class is they take techniques we learn for expressions and they use them on equations, and they take techniques we learn for equations and they use them on expressions, right? They mix up when to use which mathematical tool. Well, part of that happens because they don't know the difference between expressions and equations. So even though this stuff in the first chapter may seem very simple to you, it's very important that you have it, because later on it's going to hurt you. Okay. So then you'll just go through these specific ones, watch the videos. Right here, we've got some stuff on number lines. You can see this is a different creator now. Right, I went around and I tried to choose the best ones I could find for these particular topics. Here we've got a few different videos, right? Good to be looking at some different stuff. Also, fractions are going to pop up in this course. So a lot of people think they're going to get through this course by avoiding fractions, or I'll hear the phrase like, "Oh, I'm good at math except when there's fractions." Math is fractions. So if you're not good at math when there's fractions involved, then you're not good at math, right? How often do you go to the store and buy something and the price comes out to exactly an integer value, right? How often do you buy gas and it comes out to like exactly $80? Never, right? Almost everything we do is fractional or decimal in some kind of nature. So you have to be good with fractions. You just do. So it's better if you sort of get in the mindset now that you're going to get comfortable with fractions rather than sort of resisting it, because the longer you resist getting comfortable with fractions, the harder it's going to be for you in this course. So please get comfortable with the fractions early on. You'll find, here's what I find about students. A lot of students are scared of fractions, but it's almost like a phobia. You know, there's fears that are rational, and then there's like a phobia, which is like an irrational fear. So if you're in a room with an angry cobra, it's totally reasonable to be afraid of that thing. If you see a poster of a cobra on the wall, you shouldn't really be afraid of that because it can't hurt you, right? So that's like kind of that difference between like healthy fear versus, some people are just overcome by fear. I find that many people, as soon as they hear the word, is something going on with my streaming? It looked like it wasn't right. As soon as people hear the word fraction, they freeze up and they get that fear in them, and they're convinced. I literally have students come to me and say, I don't know how to use fractions. And then I don't even help them. I just nudge them through the problem. Okay, do the next step. Okay, what's your next step you have to do? Okay, now what? They'll literally do the problem without any help from me at all, right? Other than just telling them take one more step. So what I find is many of you actually are better at fractions than you think you are. You're scared of it, and I'm sure every one of you is telling yourself right now, well, I'm not the one he's talking about. I actually really am bad at math with fractions. But like I say, when I push students a little bit in the classroom, 90% of the time, they can do fractions just fine. You may not want to do fractions, but that's sort of a different scenario than can't do fractions, right? So please get comfortable with them. You're going to have to be. If you're going to pass this class, you have to be comfortable with fractions. So just get comfortable with it early, right? Let's see, where am I? Oh, so you'll go through these. There's some different videos, and then as you're doing those, you'll be doing the homework inside of Delta Math. If you get to a point in Delta Math where it looks unfamiliar, come back and watch some more videos. Okay. Now notice we get to this thing at the end here. What is this? This is a little bit different. This is a discussion. You get points for the discussions. They are graded. So this is how to work online. You're going to come in and you're going to leave comments about you guys, how you guys help each other out, or, how do you access the homework online? You'll read the directions and you'll leave a response, and then at some later date, I'll come through and give points for good responses. Now, just sort of the rule of thumb to keep in mind, I usually give most people full credit, but it has to be a good comment. Okay, you can't just come in here and say, oh, great comment to someone else's comment, and then they think that's going to get you points. Because just think about the comment you're leaving and ask, if I deleted it, would we be missing anything? Right? If you go in there and you write, oh, that's a really good idea. If I delete that, it doesn't really change much, right? Because the person's good idea is still there, but your comment that doesn't really add any value is missing, and actually makes it a little cleaner because there's not like extra stuff. So when you leave a comment, just make sure it's like a meaningful, useful comment, right? So low effort comments, low quality comments will not get credit. So again, like saying, oh, good comment, or I agree with you. Those are not meaningful in any kind of way. If you go in there and say, oh, how do we work online? Oh, I like to use my laptop because then I can work anywhere I like. But if I'm at school, sometimes I go to the beach and I'll do my homework there, right? Some kind of actual explanation where people, what's going to happen is when you read through these is you're going to figure out someone has a good system and you're going to, you know what? I should do what that student is doing. That's a good idea. I'm going to start using that, right? That's kind of the idea behind these, okay? So plus it's fairly easy points. You just are going to come in here and you're going to write, a few sentences explaining or a paragraph or something, your approach to the technology part of the online class. So that's all that's expected there, but make sure you get it done by the due date, right? Because once I grade these, they're kind of locked in place, okay? So those are the different kinds of things you're going to see in Canvas. So that's actually, if you think about it, that's actually a homework assignment that's not inside of Delta Math. It's a homework assignment that's inside of Canvas. So make sure you're watching out for those, okay, so that you get both done. Sometimes I have students that think all the homework happens inside of Delta Math. Sometimes they think it only happens inside of Canvas. You have a little of both. In fact, you have a lot of Delta Math with a little bit of Canvas. Okay, and that's just how the course will progress. I'll open up chapter 2 here. You'll work through these videos. You'll have a discussion at the end. And it's just going to be a pattern. As we approach the test, I'll tell you how the tests are going to work in more detail. The overview of exams is this. You have 2 exams. You'll have one roughly in the middle of the semester, and you'll have one at the end, which is your final exam. They'll happen roughly the same way. There's a few differences, but here's roughly how it's going to work. A couple weeks before the test, I'll let you know. Once we know when the final is, you'll know like a couple months in advance. But that first test, I'll tell you a few weeks in advance when it is. Try to be caught up. Some students kind of like don't take it seriously till I say, okay, 2 weeks from today, we're having the exam. And then they try to do 8 weeks worth of material in 2 weeks. You're not going to learn it. Being able to complete an assignment is different than learning the material. And students who try to, you can't learn math really fast. People think you can. It just doesn't work. Your brain is technically not a muscle, right? It's an organ, but it works like a muscle in that it gets fatigued and then you can't work it anymore. It would be like saying, oh, I'm going to learn 8 weeks worth of math in 2 weeks is like saying, I'm going to do 8 weeks worth of bench pressing in 1 week. Okay? It doesn't work. If I come up with a program for bench pressing over 8 weeks, I'm going to see a certain amount of gains in those 8 weeks, right? You can't just compress it into 2 weeks and go, well, if I just go into the gym and I do nothing but bench press for 2 weeks, then I'll get just as strong. It doesn't work that way, right? Because your muscles get tired and fatigued, and then they need to go through the process of regrowth and all that kind of stuff. It's the same thing with your brain, right? Your brain is literally changing and forming neurons as you learn things. You have to give it time to do its process. There's lots of research in this. If you try to, say you sit down for one day and say, I'm going to do 8 hours worth of math homework today, your brain will do a good job for about 2 hours. And then for that last 6 hours, you're not going to retain stuff. Your brain gets worn out and it can't form those neurons it needs to form, and you're not going to remember any of it, which is a weird experience for students that come to me and say, I did this yesterday for like an hour and I can't remember any of it. Yeah, because that was like hour 5 of your session, of your homework session. You need to be breaking it up. You need to think of this course as a marathon, not a series of sprints. Okay, that's the number one way to fail in this course. You need to every day be doing some amount of work to progress you forward, like a marathon. You're not running super fast, but you're consistently doing it. Not like a sprint where you wait. Okay, now I'm going to run really fast and get it all done. That doesn't work at all. So please keep that in mind when you're deciding how to do things. Okay. So for the exams, I'll tell you about 2 weeks ahead of time when the exam's going to be. Hopefully you're more or less caught up, so that's not going to panic you. I will give you about a few days ahead of time. You'll be given a practice exam inside of Delta Math. Then a few days later, you'll be given an actual exam inside of Delta Math. If you do poorly on that first exam, you can retake it. And that retake score will replace your original. So let's say you try really hard, you come in, you get a 55% on that first test. Normally, that's pretty much going to be the end of you in the course, okay? Because it's hard to come back from a 55 on a test. For that first exam, you get to retake it. So I have students do this all the time. They get a 55 on exam 1. They spend another 7 to 10 days studying. They come back and they get like an 80. Okay, now they're in good standing in the class, which is good. Now, the final exam you cannot retake. I want to make sure everyone understands that. You cannot retake the final exam. You can retake the what some people call a midterm, which is exam 1. Okay? It's more complicated than this. There's a few more restrictions, but that's the basics of how that's going to go. For the final exam, you'll have the practice test, but then you'll just have the actual test, and that's the end of it. There's no retake on the final exam, okay? But so hopefully that takes a little bit of the pressure off. If you prepare properly for exam 1, hopefully you won't even need the retake. But if you need it, it's there for you. Okay? It's kind of nice to not rely on that retake if you can help it, because then if you think about it, for that next 10 days, you're studying the new material that we're covering and the old material that you need to know for the test. And you're doing double duty. That's kind of hard, right? So try to not use the retake. It will actually cause you a lot more stress and work. Try to not do it, but if you don't do as well on that test as you think you should or you want, you still get a second bite at the apple, right? Like they would say. So that's how that's going to work, and we'll talk more about exams as that approaches. And then you're just going to work through this. As far as pacing, you should roughly be looking at due dates to figure out what your pacing should be. And again, don't wait until due dates to do stuff, because a lot of times I have like the homework's due in chunks where like a whole chapter maybe due at the same time. Well, if you wait till there's 2 days left and then try to do the whole chapter, again, you won't learn it. You might be able to finish a lot of the homework, but that doesn't necessarily mean you learned it, especially if you did it in like one weekend. You probably don't know it as well as you would have had you spread it out over, many weeks and then learned it. That retention is just going to be better. So that's sort of the approach in general. And let's see, where am I? We're roughly out of time, but let's see if there's anything else I need to say right away. Homework, exams. Oh, on the first retake, when you do the retake, that score replaces the original score no matter what. Higher, lower, the same. If you do a retake, that becomes your new score. So sometimes students go, oh no, isn't it only if I do better? No, it's just the retake. But I wouldn't worry about that too much. As long as you study, students almost always do better. The only students who don't do better generally are the ones that didn't study for it. But if you didn't study for it, you shouldn't really take the retake anyways. You see what I'm saying? So that's not really a concern. And then I'm sure I don't have to tell you all this, but as far as school policies go, anything that happens in these Zoom meetings or any posts in Canvas or the chats in these streams, anything like that is subject to normal Ventura College behavioral policy, right? So if you were to come into chat and say something offensive to another student, it's just like you're saying that thing in the classroom, right? And then the school would act accordingly. So I'm sure you're all well-behaved, mature individuals that I don't have to say this to, but I say this to all my classes, whether they're, whether it's like Calc 3 class or something like that. You know, you always have different people in classes. Just make sure you're acting appropriately for class. You're acting mature. You're doing, you know, even in like my business calculus class, I have people that, you know, don't act mature, so they have to be told. So it's not anything about this group. I'm just saying we have to make sure we're, you know, just you kind of want to be the person in class that's acting appropriately, right? You want to be the responsible person. So just keep that in mind. And we will generally keep this a very open place where people can feel comfortable. People can't learn in an environment where they think people are going to make fun of them, or they think people are judging them, or they think they're going to look foolish in front of other people. So we really want to keep this as a place where everyone is comfortable. And here's a I know we're almost out of time, or we are out of time, but a quick word. You need to give yourself, and I'll say this again, but you need to give yourself the freedom to make mistakes in this course. Math is one class where people will beat themselves up so much for making mistakes that they then become afraid to try the next problem because they're so afraid of making a mistake. Anyone who does mathematics makes mistakes. Okay, I have a PhD in mathematics. I make mistakes all the time. I know people with PhDs in mathematics. They make mistakes all the time. The key is you move past the mistake and you move on and you fix it and you know how to correct it. Okay? Every single person that does math makes mistakes, from the lowest to the highest. Mistakes get made, right? The question is, how do you deal with those mistakes? And how you don't deal with them is by beating yourself up and saying, "Oh, I'm just a dummy. I can't do any kind of math or anything like that." That doesn't have anything to do with it. When you try new things, you make mistakes at them. When you keep working on them, you'll make fewer and fewer mistakes, and pretty soon you'll make mistakes very rarely, right? You'll never completely eliminate the mistakes. Like I say, even when you have a PhD, you make mistakes in math, but you'll make far fewer of them, and when they do happen, you'll know what to do with them. So just take that approach in this class. Give yourself the freedom to realize, I'm going to make mistakes. It's okay, as long as I learn from those mistakes and I figure out what I'm doing wrong and I fix it and then I don't make those mistakes anymore, it's totally fine. Okay? So give yourself a little bit of a break. I really see people punishing themselves way too harshly for making math mistakes. Okay? So we'll pick up from there next time. It's 10:53. I'm actually 3 minutes over. We'll pick up next time. What I'd really like to see the next time we meet is that everyone has signed up for the homework and at least started some assignments. Okay, started going through the first couple. Shouldn't be very tricky for you, but get a sense of how things work, and then you can bring me questions on Thursday. Okay? So, like I said, this is how we generally close class. I'm going to close down the stream on YouTube in just a second, and then anyone who wants to stick around and ask me questions in Zoom, please do so, and then I can talk to you about that, okay?